This episode of Test Drive is brought to you by EV Duty. Back in the winter, we had the chance to feature a snapshot on the 2018 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. Now, we just took it on a snow course to be able to test its dual electric motors, but our intention always was to be able to get this vehicle for a longer period of time, and so we have. Our spotlight today is on this 2018 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. We're going to be taking this vehicle on a road test, going over all the features and everything you need to know if you're in the market for Canada's best-selling PHEV. Now, there are a few things to note about this vehicle. It is a mid-sized crossover SUV, but only 2 rows, so you won't be fitting all of your family in it, but it does have space for 5 people. Up front, you have LED running lights, headlights, and fog lights. However, and very unfortunately, the high beams are halogen. They don't work very well, so I almost keep it completely on regular mode when you're driving. Don't use the high beams on this vehicle. You do have all the enhanced safety tech that you would expect from a vehicle such as this, and it's pretty good. You have blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, forward collision warning, active cruise control, rear cross traffic alert, and even a 360-degree camera system. It's not bad for Mitsubishi. You also get power folding mirrors with this, which will lock automatically when you click the buttons on the side. And I have to say that this is a good looking vehicle. It's not a very radical design. It's relatively conservative, but I have to say it has a good look to it. Probably not the best, but it doesn't blend in. I do like it. It looks nice. Now, there's something very interesting about the exterior of this vehicle, and it's not just the big plug-in hybrid EV badge on the front fenders or the back of the vehicle. It actually has to do with the charging. It's something that we haven't seen before because there are only 2 vehicles sold here in Canada that have this feature, this being one of them. When it comes to charging a plug-in hybrid vehicle such as this, you're using basically the regular socket. The level 2 charger will be able to plug into it along with the emergency chargers, and you have no issue. However, this vehicle, being a plug-in hybrid, also has a CHAdeMO charger, which is a level 3 fast charger. The only other non-full electric vehicle sold here in Canada that you can use a fast charger on is the BMW i3 range extender. Now, you do have a power opening lift gate, which you would expect on a vehicle like this. Now, one thing that's interesting is you do have the hydraulics to be able to push it up, but there's an arm here, which I think actually is the motorized part of the lift gate. So rather than a lot of manufacturers that put very heavy duty shocks on here to be able to push it up, it's using a slightly different system. You do have excellent trunk space. You do have a little bit of storage underneath the floor, which is where they've put the spare charger, as well as a tire inflator kit. And you also do have a 1500 watt power inverter in the back. You can turn that on from the front and you can basically plug in anything. Mitsubishi says you can even use an espresso machine on the back of this. So it's something interesting to note. Now, there are 2 cup holders back here, even though there are no seats, and there is a big subwoofer. The seats fold flat, and really, I mean, you got a lot of room back here. I'm impressed with the amount of size there is. So let's jump inside now and take a look at what the inside of the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV has to offer. Now, how do I explain the interior of this vehicle? I don't know. You know what? It kind of reminds me of a shuttlecraft from Star Trek. Everything is sort of tilted a little bit towards the driver, not only in the center, but also on the left side too. It kind of feels like you're sitting in a shuttle here. I actually do like the infotainment, albeit small. It does work pretty well, and in fact, they have 4 menu buttons on the right side of the screen that are always available. When you have your phone connected, you push the apps button, takes you right into Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, your audio, home, and menu. So you really do have all the quick buttons that you need to access. But yeah, it really is a conservative design. There's nothing exciting about it. Dual zone climate is really straightforward. You've got buttons below, and there's a button for your active on or off, which would actually turn off the lift gate, which is on the opposite side of where the actual lift gate button is. You've got your heated steering wheel, blind spot monitoring, and then, as we mentioned in the back, your 1500 watt power inverter. You can turn it on or off from there. Along the left side of the instrument cluster, first of all, you have manual leveling headlights. This is something that you probably see more in Europe. You actually don't see them here in Canada, at least not on a vehicle that we've featured so far on Test Drive. Beside it is your traction control button, which you can't see from here. The other button that you actually cannot see no matter where you sit, it's behind the steering wheel, and your turn signal is the button to actually switch through the cluster screen. So if you want to be able to see your range, you really have to know where that button is, or else you might be turning off traction control by accident. Now below that is another set of buttons. You've got your forward collision distance, has nothing to do with the active cruise control distance. You do have lane departure warning, couple blank buttons, your trunk release, and your fuel door release. Now we're going to work gradually down the center console here. You have cup holders that you can hide away, and then you have a very interesting gear shift lever. It's a flip switch kind of push button thing. It's weird. Now the one button I really want to talk about, I think the most important one for this specific vehicle, is the twin motor all-wheel drive lock button. And that one makes sure that both of the electric motors on this vehicle are working together for full all-wheel drive. We talk a little bit more on our road test, but this is a vehicle with 3 different motors. You have a 2-liter gas motor. You also have 2 electric motors that power, one for the front wheels and one for the back wheels. Now we've been using this for the last couple days as a family hauler. I've actually, despite it being a really weird layout, I actually really do like driving it. I don't know why, but my daughter has tons of room in the back, and as I mentioned up here, I'm quite comfortable too. So I think we're going to take this car on its road test now. We're going to do our best to go over the EV data that we've been doing with it and have a wrap up at the end, because we've been having some issues actually calculating the total driving and electricity that we've consumed with this vehicle. So we're going to be wrapping that up after our road test. Now before we go on our road test with the 2018 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, we need to make sure that it's charged up first. That's the whole point of this car. So we're going to be using our level 2 charger from EV Duty. This allows us to manage, monitor, and schedule charging right from our smartphone. We don't have to worry about whether it's charging or not, or curious to know if it's charged up by having to come and physically check it. We do everything on the smartphone. So it's a great opportunity for us to be able to use it and to get on the road to get the most out of our EV vehicle. For more information about the EV Duty charger, please visit elmec.ca. As we start off here on our road test, there's 2 other buttons that we didn't really talk about on our walk around. It's the battery save and battery charge mode. When you push either one of them, it does exactly what it sounds like it'll do. If you push the save button, it'll maintain the battery level as best it can using the gas motor more. The charge button, if your vehicle's, say, depleted and you want to be able to have some electricity for wherever your destination is and there's no place for it to charge, then it'll use the gas motor more to charge up the battery. As of filming this segment now, we've only done 220 kilometers. And I know that's really low, but we've been trying our best to drive this more. But with its 34 kilometer range, full electric, we've only done 30. The best we've done is 30 kilometers on this full electric, which really isn't that good. I mean, the Optima PHEV, we could do almost 50, and then something like the Chevrolet Volt obviously was way better, but this is a bigger vehicle. Even though it has a bigger battery, it has to push along more weight. And especially with the dual motors, if you are using them, you can use up more battery. So while it isn't necessarily the fastest vehicle that we've tested, especially when it comes to PHEVs or EVs in general, yeah, I have to say that it feels a little underpowered, and the range itself isn't overly great. Now the other problem that we've had is calculating how much we've driven in terms of actual gas consumption and electricity consumption. Usually when we take a car, we just reset the trip odometer, we're good to go. But this uses a very complicated computer system here where it automatically resets itself every time you plug it in and it fully charges up. And we've tried to disable it multiple times and it continues to go into automatic mode. So as of right now, it says that we've done 7.2 liters per 100 kilometers with an average consumption of 21.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Unfortunately, that's, I think, total for the 11,000 kilometers that this car has driven, or at least the last time that somebody went into this computer and reset it in a way that we haven't been able to do. So we've only done, as I said, 220 kilometers, but that's 7.2, that's not us. So unfortunately, we're going to have to go with that number, because every time we get in this car, it says 0.0 liters because it resets because we charge it up. So unfortunately, I can't tell you, but I can tell you that it is probably pretty close to that. If you're going on any distance that's longer than 30 kilometers, you're going to be using up more fuel. You're going to be using fuel in the first place because that EV battery range is going to go out really quickly. 30 kilometers comes a lot quicker. So I think we mentioned it before, if you're going to be driving this in the city, that's a good place to be able to do it. If you're going to be driving it within a range that you can get to another electric charger, you're going to be saving money that way. But for a longer, even going back and forth to work, you're going to be using this more in gas mode than you are in electric mode. This really is more of a city vehicle. Now, one of the things I really noticed as soon as I got into this car and started driving it is it does feel older than a 2018 model. There's just something about it, and maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just feel like I'm driving a vehicle that's from 2008. It has nothing to do with the Spartan interior here. It just has that feel on the road. I don't know why. But even though it does, I still actually enjoy driving. We've had 5 vehicles this week in our garage, but I keep taking this one. It might be because it is electric, so I'm saving every time I go somewhere local. But I do like driving it, even if it does feel a little dated. In terms of the ride and actual feel of the vehicle, I do like the way that it drives. It's not anything surprising. It's not overly different than what you'd find on other vehicles. And a 12 kilowatt hour battery pack isn't a lot that runs along the bottom of the vehicle, so it's not like you can take turns any quicker in this than you could because the center of gravity is lower. I don't know. I like driving it. It's nothing surprising though, and I think that's the thing. I think people are buying this because it does have that EV component. It does allow you to use it. If you're thinking of this more as a hybrid than a plug-in hybrid, then it makes sense. If you're not using it in full EV mode, then you're going to save some gas. It's going to use less fuel. You're going to be more efficient. But using it as a full electric, I think it's just too low.
As mentioned, we wanted to finalize our fuel economy numbers for our time with the Outlander PHEV. After driving 325 kilometers total, we still have that average of 7.2 liters per 100 kilometers on our readout. However, we went on a near 100 kilometer drive to drop the Outlander off. While we figured we'd only get about 30 kilometers of EV use out of our trip, we actually ended up with an average of 5 liters per 100 kilometers and a 63% EV use, which was surprising. While the full EV range isn't huge, you will see a noticeable difference in fuel consumption, given most mid-size crossovers we feature average between 9 and 11 liters per 100 kilometers. This is an interesting vehicle, at least for me. I still have to forgive our Ontario viewers if you weren't aware that this car even exists, considering Mitsubishi's presence in that province is significantly different than it is here in Quebec. While this third generation Outlander has only been in production since the 2013 model year, it feels a lot older than it actually is. I took a quick look at some older Outlander models over the week, and the interior feels like it has a lot more in common with a 2009, rather than looking forward to the future, considering it's embracing the whole PHEV technology. But sales don't lie, and this past month Mitsubishi took the crown for the most PHEVs sold in Canada for the Outlander, not just for plug-in SUVs. That's a huge accomplishment, and I don't doubt that a large part of that had to do with sales in Quebec. Now let's go over some of our likes and dislikes with this vehicle. An interesting feature we didn't mention during our drive or walk around is the fact that the steering wheel has a button for the camera, which is great for easy access when parking, but it also works while the vehicle is on the highway, showing you the passenger side road camera if you're wondering how close you might be to the line. Occupant and cargo space was also excellent, with little room lost to the dual electric motors, though that's likely why you only find a 5-passenger PHEV instead of the 3-row that they sell for the regular Outlander. While the infotainment system wasn't overly exciting, we did like the useful shortcut buttons along the side of it, and the Rockford Fosgate audio system sounded pretty good, considering we'd never heard of it before. Oops. LED headlights and fog lights were a welcomed feature, and the manual leveling lights also were a surprise. However, while this crossover appears to be a success for the Japanese automaker here in Canada, we're wondering if they plan on investing in the platform and making it better. We know the 2019s have already hit the shores in Europe, so maybe some of our complaints here have already been rectified. The EV range is our biggest issue. A vehicle of this size should be able to hold a larger battery, and even with the 13.8 kilowatt-hour battery on next year's model, we think that a 30-kilometer full EV range just wasn't enough to get us to the destination during the week without having to use fuel. Some of the button placements were also poorly chosen and hard to access without moving your head around the steering wheel. The use of halogen high beams was also a miss for us. Given the excellent LED lighting system incorporated into this vehicle, it just feels like a waste not to give this vehicle a complete safety circle with LED lights all around. A vehicle like this has a market here in Canada, there's no doubt about it, and it seems like it's a success for Mitsubishi. And who can really argue against more competition in this growing market? Thanks for watching this episode of Test Drive Spotlight on the 2018 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV GT S-AWC. What do you think about this crossover? and its electric component? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already, as we publish new episodes of Test Drive every single week here on Perpetual Radio Networks. Until next time, take care.